Welcome, traveler of stories, to a realm where time bends and legends breathe. This is not the world of shadows, nor the world of noise. It is a quiet place between heartbeats, where memory and myth meet. Tonight, we follow the footsteps of Athena, goddess of wisdom and light. She does not raise a sword, nor march with armies. Her power is gentler, sharper, a flame that cuts through darkness. Athena calls to those who wander, those who listen in silence. She whispers to dreamers, to seekers, to heroes not yet awake. Across mountains and seas, across deserts and storms, her call is the same. It is a call to courage, not of battle, but of truth. It is a call to unity, not of conquest, but of hearts. And it is a call to wisdom, hidden in stillness and patience. Long ago, heroes heard her voice and gathered under starlight. They came not to fight, but to learn what lasts beyond ages. They entered a place beyond time, the eternal library of the gods. And there, their stories were written in light, never fading, never forgotten. Tonight, we open those pages together. We begin the tale of Athena and the heroes eternal. Part 1. The Whisper of Olympus. The night was still, yet the heavens stirred with unseen motion. High above the mortal lands, the halls of Olympus glowed with eternal light. The gods gathered in silence, their gaze resting upon the fragile world below. It was not war that drew their eyes, nor thunder nor flame. It was the quiet longing of humankind, the yearning for more. From the heights of her marble throne, Athena rose in grace and calm. Her eyes, deep as the night sky, pierced the distance to the mortal realm. She felt the trembling of hearts, the questions whispered into the wind. Not prayers of power, nor shouts of conquest, but a gentler song. They were the voices of those who wandered, lost yet searching. They were the voices of dreamers, who saw more than the world allowed. And among them, Athena recognized a spark, faint but unyielding. She turned to the gods, yet few understood what she perceived. Zeus thundered of storms, Poseidon stirred the waves, Ares craved battle. But Athena heard only the soft murmur, the fragile thread of hope. She knew it was not a storm that needed answering, but a whisper. Olympus itself seemed to lean closer, listening to her resolve. Athena raised her hand, not in command, but in promise. "The time has come," she spoke, her voice like flowing riverstone. "Not for war, nor for thrones, but for wisdom to awaken." Her words carried weight, yet no clash of arms followed. Instead, a calm spread, like dawn breaking across silver clouds. She called not to armies, but to chosen souls among mortals. They would not be summoned by trumpet nor by fire, but by dream. Their names were not carved in marble, not yet sung in song. But in their hearts, Athena saw threads of timeless courage. She breathed upon the wind, sending whispers across valleys and seas. The whispers moved like gentle streams, slipping into mortal minds. Some heard them in sleep, as voices in twilight. Others felt them in waking, a sudden hush in their day. The call was not loud, yet impossible to ignore. A feeling of being watched, guided, led by unseen hands. Athena's whisper did not promise crowns, nor riches, nor glory. It promised only truth, hidden yet waiting to be found. A farmer resting in his field lifted his gaze to the stars. A poet by candlelight paused, pen trembling above his scroll. A wanderer at sea felt his compass turn without reason. Each, in their own way, felt the breath of the goddess. Each felt that strange mix of wonder and quiet fear. They did not know they were chosen, yet their souls stirred. The whisper of Olympus wove itself through their dreams. It painted visions of golden halls and endless skies, It showed them paths unseen, doors hidden in shadow. And at the heart of all, a figure cloaked in radiant calm. Her voice was the sound of leaves in a midnight forest. Her presence was the flame of a lantern in endless night. She spoke no command, only a question. Will you listen? The question echoed in them, day by day, hour by hour. The whisper became a pulse, steady and unyielding. It called not to their strength, but to their spirit. It drew them forward, though they knew not where. And thus began the first stirrings of a journey eternal. From the heights of Olympus, Athena smiled with quiet knowing. The world would change, not with thunder, but with wisdom, not with conquest, but with light carried in mortal hearts. For she had whispered, and the heroes had begun to awaken. Part 2. The Gathering of Heroes. The whispers drifted far, finding hearts across distant lands and hidden paths. In a quiet village, a young woman tending olive trees felt a voice within. She had no sword, no crown, only the courage to face each dawn with hope. The whisper stirred her, telling her she was more than what she believed. In a far northern shore, a sailor watched the horizon where sea kissed sky. He felt the compass in his hand tremble, though the waters were calm. A light moved across the waves, not of storm, but of unseen guidance. He knew then his voyage was not only for trade, but for destiny. In a desert caravan, a poet rode beneath the endless veil of stars. He recited verses softly, words of longing carried on the dry wind. The whisper reached him, and the rhythm of his poem shifted. The words began to tell of doors that opened beyond the horizon. In a bustling city, a craftsman carved wood with patient and steady hands. He saw shapes beyond form, beauty hidden in every grain of timber. The whisper touched him, and he looked at his tools with new eyes. He felt as though each carving was a key to something greater. Across mountains, rivers, and plains, the chosen were stirred awake. They did not know each other, yet each shared the same echo within. It was not a command, not an order, but a call to gather. Athena's voice was like a thread weaving through their dreams. Each dream different, yet the destination was the same. The eternal library, though none had seen it, appeared in their sleep. Its doors of light stood waiting, silent yet alive with promise. Some heroes resisted, fearing what lay ahead beyond their simple lives. Others longed for it, hearts beating faster at the thought of the unknown. Yet all felt the same truth. They could not ignore the call. The young woman left her village, carrying only a lamp and her faith. The sailor turned his ship toward a star that no chart had marked. The poet walked away from his caravan, following a dream-born melody. The craftsman set down his tools, leaving his workshop silent for the first time. Each step was small, but each was guided by the unseen hand of Athena. They did not know how long the path would be, nor where it would end. But they felt the bond, a hidden unity binding strangers across lands. In the stillness of Olympus, Athena watched their movements with calm. Her wisdom saw not only who they were, but who they might become. Zeus watched too, doubtful, and Ares frowned at the absence of battle. But Athena remained firm, knowing wisdom often blooms without noise. She whispered again, this time weaving courage into their weary hearts. The heroes felt the weight of their choice, yet also its quiet strength. No banner led them, no army followed, yet they walked toward destiny. A farmer's daughter, a sailor, a poet, a craftsman, unremarkable to the world. Yet within them lay the seeds of timeless courage, hidden until now. The path wound through forests where dawn broke in golden mist. It stretched across deserts where stars guided weary feet at night. It crossed seas where waves whispered of secrets older than mankind. Every step brought them closer to one another, though they did not yet meet. Every dream showed them fragments of faces they would soon know. The whisper of Olympus was now their compass, steady and unbroken. Athena's light guided them not to glory, but to gathering. For the time had come when scattered souls would walk as one. The heroes, unknown to each other, were being drawn together. And soon, beneath the silent gaze of the heavens, they would meet. The gathering of heroes had begun, quiet but eternal. Part 3. The Eternal Library. The journey of the chosen ones stretched far beyond their known horizons. Mountains rose like silent watchers, and rivers whispered secrets of forgotten ages. The stars above seemed closer now, as if guiding their every step. Though they had never met, their paths bent toward the same unseen destination. Each dream they shared grew clearer, painting a vision of a place beyond time. It was not a temple nor a palace, but something far older and wiser. The Eternal Library awaited, a sanctuary where knowledge breathed and stories lived. No map could show the way, for its gates opened only to those who truly sought. One by one, the travelers arrived at a valley veiled in silver mist. The air there was still, as if the world itself held its breath. Before them rose pillars of light, shifting like waves upon a cosmic sea. They knew without doubt that they had found what had called them. The young woman stepped forward first, her heart racing with awe. The sailor followed, humbled by the vastness that stretched before him. The poet bowed his head, sensing verses forming without pen or parchment. The craftsman touched the ground, feeling it pulse like a living heartbeat. The doors of the library were not made of wood or stone, but of woven memory. They shimmered and shifted, opening not outward, but inward, into the soul. Inside, there was no ceiling, no end, no boundary the eye could see. Shelves spiraled into infinity, each holding books that glowed like constellations. Some books were vast as mountains, others as small as a single breath. They contained stories of worlds born, empires risen, and dreams yet to come. The heroes walked among them in silence, each step echoing in eternity. They felt as though they were walking not through a place, but through time itself. Athena appeared among them, though she had never truly been absent. Her presence filled the air like the first dawn after a long night. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice both music and wisdom. "This is the library where memory never fades, where truth is never lost." The heroes bowed, not out of duty, but out of reverence. They understood they stood within the heart of knowledge itself. Athena led them deeper, past scrolls written before the stars were born. "These are not just stories," she told them. "They are the breath of existence. Here lie the mistakes of gods and the triumphs of mortals. Here dwell the questions still unanswered, waiting for seekers to ask." The young woman paused before a book that bore her family's name. It told the story of her ancestors, their struggles, their hopes, their faith. The sailor found a tale of explorers who charted seas no map had known. The poet discovered verses written by hands long turned to dust. The craftsman saw designs and patterns that echoed his own deepest dreams. They realized they were not alone, nor were their journeys theirs alone. Each page revealed that they were part of a much larger story. Each story reminded them that greatness is not a single act, but a thread. Athena watched them with a gaze that saw both past and future. "You have come far," she said, "but your path does not end here. The library is not a resting place. It is a mirror and a guide. Learn what you must, But remember, wisdom is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be lived, shared, and woven into the world. The heroes felt the truth of her words settle deep within their souls. They were not there to take, but to become. Not to claim knowledge, but to embody it. The eternal library was not just a destination. It was a beginning. Here, in the quiet heart of eternity, their journey took a new shape. And as they turned the pages of worlds and wonders, they understood. They were no longer wanderers searching for meaning. They were now guardians of light, carriers of stories, and bearers of truth. The whisper of Athena had led them here, and now they would carry it onward. Part 4. The first lesson. Courage without battle. The library's light dimmed into a soft glow, as though preparing for revelation. Athena led the heroes into a hall where no books lined the walls. Instead, the chamber was empty, filled only with silence and their own breath. The heroes looked at one another, uncertain of what was to come. Athena's gaze moved across them, calm yet piercing like the edge of dawn. Courage, she began, is not found only where swords clash or storms rage. It lives quietly in choices, in moments where no one cheers or sees. The young woman frowned, unsure of what the goddess meant. She thought courage belonged to warriors who faced fire and steel. Athena raised her hand, and the air shimmered with memory. Visions appeared, a farmer standing before his people during a drought. He spoke truth, urging them to share water instead of hoarding it. No battle was fought, yet his choice saved many from despair. The sailor saw another vision, a mother defending her child with words. She stood before council, refusing to let injustice silence her voice. Her heart trembled, yet her truth became stronger than any weapon. The poet witnessed a scribe admitting fault before an unforgiving king. He risked his life by telling truth, yet his honesty softened the ruler's heart. The craftsman saw a child who stood alone to stop others from cruelty. No sword was drawn, yet the child's voice carried power beyond measure. Each hero felt these visions stir something deep within themselves. They realized courage was not only in great deeds, but in small truths. Athena spoke again, her tone like steady fire in the quiet hall. Courage without battle is the root of all lasting strength. To stand for kindness when cruelty tempts, that is courage. To choose honesty when lies promise ease, that is courage. To walk alone when the path is right, though the world turns away, that is courage. The young woman lowered her eyes, thinking of her own village. She recalled how she once spoke against unfair trade, though no one listened. At the time, she felt weak, her voice fading in the crowd. Now she saw that moment was not weakness, but the spark of bravery. The sailor thought of the night he refused to abandon his crew. Fear told him to flee, but his heart chose loyalty above survival. That night, they reached shore. Not because of strength, but because of his choice. The poet remembered words he once wrote, words that angered his master. He spoke of compassion over conquest and was nearly cast aside. Yet those words lived on, carried in whispers among the people. The craftsman recalled giving shelter to a stranger hunted by greed. It was a risk, but he could not betray the truth of his heart. Each hero felt tears rise, not of sorrow, but of recognition. Athena watched with quiet pride, her presence steady as mountain stone. "Do you see now?" she asked gently. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is the choice made despite it. Do not wait for battles to prove your worth. Your worth is proven daily. The chamber grew brighter, as if the library itself agreed with her words. The heroes looked at each other, no longer strangers, but companions in spirit. They understood that courage was not a distant crown, but a daily seed. It grew in honesty, in compassion, in the willingness to stand true. Athena lifted her hand, and the visions faded into golden dust. Yet their meaning remained, etched into the hearts of those who listened. The lesson was clear, unshakable, and eternal. Courage without battle was the first step toward becoming more than mortal. And as they left the hall, the heroes carried that truth within them, a truth brighter than fire, softer than dawn, and stronger than steel. Part 5. The River of Reflection. The heroes walked deeper into the library, led by Athena's gentle presence. This time, the hall opened into a space alive with flowing water. A great river wound through the chamber, glowing with soft silver light. The air was cool, and every ripple carried the echo of memory. The heroes paused at the riverbank, watching the current bend and weave. Athena raised her hand, and the waters stilled, as if listening. "This is the river of reflection," she told them, her voice like dawn. "It shows not what you desire, but what you carry within." The heroes looked uncertain, each hesitant to step forward. The young woman spoke first, her voice trembling in the silence. "Must we look? What if we find what we do not wish to see?" Athena's eyes softened with compassion, her reply calm and steady. "Truth does not wound. It frees, even when it arrives with weight." The sailor took a deep breath and knelt at the water's edge. The river shimmered, revealing a vision of a stormy night at sea. He watched himself at the helm, fear in his eyes, hands trembling. In the vision, he turned away, leaving his crew to their fate. The sailor cried out, shaking his head. "That is not true." But Athena touched his shoulder gently. "It is a shadow of fear. Within you lives doubt, but facing it is the first step to mastery." The sailor wept quietly, then nodded, accepting the truth within. The river rippled again, reflecting the poet's searching face. This time, it showed a grand hall filled with echoes of laughter. The poet stood at the center, praised for words that pleased the powerful. But the joy was hollow, for the words were lies, not truth. The poet's hands clenched, shame filling his chest like heavy stone. Athena's voice was kind, but firm. "Your gift is truth, not flattery. When you betray your voice, you betray your soul." The poet bowed his head, tears wetting his palms. Next came the craftsman, kneeling with steady breath at the river. The waters revealed him at his forge, surrounded by kings and traders. They demanded weapons, cruel designs made for conquest and greed. He worked silently, ashamed, as his creations burned cities in flame. The craftsman gasped, falling back, shaking with sorrow. Athena's voice reached him like gentle steel. "Your hands are strong. They are meant to build, to heal, not to destroy. You are more than the chains of others' demands." The craftsman breathed deeply, feeling both grief and release. Finally, the young woman leaned close, staring into the shining water. The vision showed her standing in her village, quiet and small. Her people looked to her for words, yet she turned away. She saw herself retreating, afraid to be seen, afraid to lead. The young woman closed her eyes, tears falling onto the river's surface. "I thought my silence was safety, but it was only surrender." Athena's hand rested gently on her shoulder. "Your voice is a gift. The world needs it, even if it shakes." The young woman inhaled deeply, feeling courage stir within her again. the river's visions faded, leaving only glowing silver ripples behind. Athena looked upon them all, her gaze steady and proud. You have faced what you wished to hide. That is the second lesson. Reflection is not weakness. It is the beginning of wisdom. For only when you know your shadows can you walk fully in light. The heroes felt the truth of her words settle in their hearts. The chamber grew still, the river's glow soft and warm. And though each carried pain, they also carried a new strength. They had faced themselves, and in doing so, they had grown. Athena smiled, and the waters whispered like wind in the trees. The river of reflection had given them a gift no battle could. It gave them honesty, the courage to see, and the strength to change. And so they left the chamber, quieter, but stronger than before. The library awaited, its halls holding yet more truths for them to find. Part 6. The Garden of Listening. The library's path curved into a chamber unlike any they had seen before. It was not filled with shelves or rivers, but with endless greenery. A vast garden stretched before them, glowing under a sky of twilight stars. Trees whispered softly, and flowers opened their petals as they entered. The air was rich with fragrance, gentle and calming to the soul. Athena walked ahead, her steps light upon the mossy ground. "This is the Garden of Listening," she said, her voice a quiet hymn. "Here, words fade, and silence speaks. Here, you will learn to hear." The heroes exchanged puzzled looks, unsure of what the goddess meant. The sailor muttered softly, "I have always listened to storms and waves." Athena turned to him, her eyes calm as still water. "You hear noise, but true listening is deeper than sound." The heroes followed her to a circle of stone benches beneath an ancient tree. The branches swayed gently, as though bowing to Athena's presence. "Sit," she instructed. "Close your mouths, close your minds, and open your hearts." The poet frowned, restless, his hands twitching as if to write. The craftsman shifted uneasily, unused to such stillness. The young woman hesitated, but then sat folding her hands. Silence fell, not heavy but alive, like a soft living veil. At first, the heroes heard only their own thoughts, restless and loud. The sailor thought of past storms, of ropes, winds, and crashing waves. The poet remembered halls of laughter, the weight of false praises. The craftsman saw visions of his forge, sparks flying like restless stars. The young woman thought of her village, of voices both kind and cruel. Their minds were noisy, but the silence of the garden endured. Then slowly, they began to hear something else. The rustle of leaves was no longer just wind, but a language. The ripple of water through roots spoke of patience and time. The soil beneath their feet hummed with the song of generations. Even their own heartbeats became part of the quiet symphony. Athena's voice returned, soft but steady. "Listening is not waiting for your turn to speak. It is the art of presence. To listen is to honor the world, to give space for truth to bloom." The sailor opened his eyes, whispering, "I hear the sea even now." Athena smiled. "Not the sea, yourself within the sea." The poet murmured, "I hear sorrow between words I once ignored." The craftsman added, "I hear my father's voice in the silence, guiding my hands." The young woman closed her eyes tighter, breathing slowly. She whispered, "I hear my people calling, even when they never spoke." Tears ran down her cheeks, but they were gentle, not heavy. Athena nodded, her gaze shining like starlight through the branches. To lead, to create, to heal, you must listen beyond yourself. Do not fear silence. It is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be known. The heroes sat longer, their breath slow, their bodies calm. Each moment revealed another layer of sound beneath the silence. And for the first time, they listened not with ears, but with their souls. The garden glowed brighter, as though rejoicing at their understanding. Flowers opened wider, releasing fragrance like a hymn of approval. The branches of the trees stretched outward, sheltering them with quiet grace. Athena rose, her presence steady as the eternal stars above. "You have heard the world," she said. "Now, learn to hear each other." The heroes turned toward one another, meeting each other's gaze. In silence, they understood more than words could ever say. The sailor's loyalty, the poet's yearning, the craftsman's burden, the woman's hope. They saw it all, clear as dawn, without a single sound spoken. The garden whispered one last time, carrying the lesson deep into their hearts. And when they finally rose, they were changed, lighter yet stronger. They had learned that listening was not weakness, but the root of unity. The garden of listening faded behind them, but its silence remained within. And so they continued their journey, guided now by the power of presence. Part 7. The Bridge of Trust. The heroes left the garden and entered a chamber vast and open. Before them stretched a bridge, narrow and long, suspended in endless mist. Beneath the bridge there was no ground, only clouds shifting like waves. The air was cool, carrying the sound of distant echoes. Athena stopped at the edge, her gaze steady and calm. "This is the Bridge of Trust," she said, her voice ringing clear. "It cannot be crossed by strength, nor by wit, nor by will alone. It carries only those who trust in themselves and in one another." The heroes stared at the bridge, fear flickering in their eyes. The sailor muttered, "I have trusted ropes and winds, never missed." The poet whispered, "How can words carry us when the path is unseen?" The craftsman frowned. "Trust must be built, not demanded." The young woman looked to Athena, her eyes searching. "And if we fall?" she asked softly. Athena's smile was gentle, unshaken. "Then you will rise, for the bridge holds not the body, but the heart." The heroes hesitated, each bound by doubt and memory of failure. At last, the sailor stepped forward, his hands trembling at his sides. He placed one foot upon the bridge, and it wavered like water. The sailor's breath caught, but he thought of his crew at sea. He remembered how they trusted him even when storms broke the mast. He closed his eyes, and the bridge steadied beneath his weight. The poet stepped next, clutching the edge of his cloak tightly. His mind filled with voices mocking his words, calling them empty. But then he remembered the faces of those touched by his truth. He placed his foot upon the bridge, whispering, "Let my voice be enough." The bridge shimmered and held firm. The craftsman followed, his body heavy with doubt. He thought of the weapons he once forged, the hands he betrayed, but he also thought of the tools he created to heal and build. He stepped forward, whispering, "May my hands serve light, not shadow." The bridge steadied, glowing beneath his feet. Finally, the young woman stood at the edge, her breath unsteady. Her heart pounded, filled with fear of failure and silence. But she remembered her people, their eyes searching for guidance. She whispered, "I trust the voice within me." She stepped onto the bridge, and it welcomed her. Athena followed behind, though her steps barely touched the mist. "Trust is the root of all bonds," she said, her voice like wind. "It binds sailor to crew, poet to listener, craftsman to creation. It binds leader to people, friend to friend, and heart to heart." The heroes walked carefully, each step carrying more strength than fear. At the midpoint, the mist below began to rise, whispering doubts. Voices filled the air, each echoing their deepest insecurities. "You will fail again," the sailor heard. "Your words are nothing," the poet heard. "Your hands create ruin," the craftsman heard. "You are too weak to lead," the young woman heard. The heroes faltered, the bridge shaking beneath them. Athena raised her hand, her gaze fierce and bright. "Do not listen to the voices of fear," she commanded. "Trust each other, and the bridge will hold." The sailor looked to the poet, eyes steady. "Your words saved me once. I trust you." The poet looked to the craftsman. "Your hands built the bench where I first wrote truth. I trust you." The craftsman looked to the young woman. "Your courage at the river gave me strength. I trust you." The young woman looked to them all, her heart lifting. "And I trust each of you as I trust myself." The mist fell silent, and the bridge glowed brighter than ever. Together, they stepped forward, no longer trembling. The bridge carried them across, steady and unbroken. When they reached the other side, the mist dissolved into golden light. Athena's voice rang out, clear as bells. "You have learned the third lesson. Trust is not weakness. It is strength shared." The heroes bowed their heads, carrying the lesson deep within, and with hearts bound closer than before, they continued into the library. Part 8. The Chamber of Echoes. The heroes stepped into a new hall where the walls shimmered like mirrors. No reflection showed their faces, only shapes shifting in mist and light. The chamber was silent, yet heavy with unspoken words. Athena paused and turned to them, her voice calm and strong. "This is the Chamber of Echoes," she said. "Here, truth and falsehood sound alike until the heart listens." The sailor frowned, his brow lined with doubt. What does it mean to hear what is not spoken? Athena's gaze softened, like dawn breaking through clouds. "You must face the voices within and discern which are yours." The poet stepped forward, curiosity burning in his eyes. He whispered, "And if the echoes speak only lies?" Athena's tone was steady. "Then lies must fall silent when truth is named." The heroes spread through the chamber, each met by their own echoes. The sailor heard waves crashing, voices calling his name. One voice sneered, "You abandoned them in the storm." Another whispered, "You saved no one but yourself." His heart trembled, memories rising like dark water. He clenched his fists, whispering, "I did all I could." The echoes laughed, cruel and unrelenting. Then a gentler voice rose, soft and firm. "You guided them through darkness, and they trusted you." The sailor recognized it as the voice of a crewmate long gone. He closed his eyes, and the cruel echoes faded. The poet's turn came next, his chamber filled with words. They fell from the air like paper, whispering with scorn. "Your verses are hollow, empty lines that no one remembered. Your voice is dust in the wind, forgotten even as you speak." The poet's heart ached, for he had feared this always. But then another echo rose, carried like music on air. "Your words lit my heart when I had nothing." He saw the face of a stranger from years before. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "My words are not in vain." The cruel voices fell silent, leaving only truth. The craftsman stepped forward, the chamber echoing with iron and fire. Voices roared like hammers striking anvils. "You forged tools of destruction. Your hands know only ruin. You brought sorrow where there could have been peace." The craftsman's shoulders sagged beneath their weight. But then came a quiet voice, like a child's laughter. "You built the toy I loved, the one I carried always. Another echoed softly, "You shaped the plow that fed my family." He breathed deeply, lifting his head with strength renewed. "My hands create life as well as death. I choose creation." The echoes of cruelty dissolved into silence. The young woman entered her own space, her chamber filled with whispers. "You are too young, too untested, too weak to lead. Your people will fall because you cannot guide them." Her heart wavered, heavy with fear. But then she heard another voice, clear and steady. "We believe in you, for you believe in us." It was the voice of her people, carried from her memory. Her eyes shone as she whispered, "I am enough." The cruel echoes faded like smoke. At last, the chamber grew still, the silence deep and warm. Athena's voice filled the hall, resonant and firm. "You have faced the echoes and found the truth within. Remember this: the world will always whisper lies, but truth resides in the heart, waiting to be heard." The heroes gathered together, stronger than before. The sailor stood taller, his eyes free of guilt. The poet's hands no longer shook when he held his words. The craftsman's face was steady, lit with purpose. The young woman's gaze was unbroken, fierce and bright. Athena nodded, her smile serene. "You have learned the fourth lesson. Truth is not what is heard, but what is known." The chamber of echoes shimmered once more, then opened a path forward. The heroes walked as one, carrying their truths into the light. Part 9. The Garden of Time. The path opened into a vast garden bathed in shifting colors of dawn and dusk. Every tree shimmered with blossoms that opened and closed in endless rhythm. The air was filled with fragrance, sweet yet heavy with memory. Athena raised her hand, guiding the heroes to pause and listen. "This is the Garden of Time," she said, her voice soft as wind. "Here you will see not only what was, but what could be." The sailor looked around, his breath catching at the sight. He saw visions flickering like sunlight through water. He saw his crew alive, smiling, their ship unbroken on calm seas. Then the vision twisted, showing them lost forever, swallowed by storms. His heart ached, torn between joy and grief. The poet stepped forward, his eyes shimmering with wonder. He saw himself on a stage, words rising like fire, the crowd cheering. Then he saw silence, his voice fading into nothingness, forgotten forever. The vision pierced his heart, filling him with longing and fear. The craftsman moved next, his gaze steady but wary. He saw villages thriving with his tools, children laughing, families fed. Then the image shifted, showing weapons in hands that brought sorrow. He shuddered, his hands trembling as he looked away. The young woman stepped last, her heart pounding as the vision came. She saw her people rising, strong and united beneath her guidance. But then she saw them falling, their hope broken, her crown shattered. Tears filled her eyes as she gripped her cloak tightly. Athena's voice rose, calm but commanding. "Time shows all paths, but it does not choose for you. The garden is a mirror, not a master." The sailor whispered, "But how do we know which is true?" Athena met his eyes, her gaze unwavering. "Truth is not found in visions of might have been. It is forged by choice, in the present moment." The heroes stood in silence, the weight of time heavy on their shoulders. The sailor closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I will honor their memory by steering forward, not clinging to storms." The vision of loss faded, leaving only the steady horizon. The poet breathed deeply, lifting his head with resolve. "My words matter when they are spoken with honesty, not for praise." The silence around him broke. filled instead with gentle echoes of truth. The craftsman raised his calloused hands, steady and firm. I will build for life, not destruction, no matter what time may show. The vision of weapons dissolved, leaving the image of a plow. The young woman wiped her tears, her eyes fierce with light. My people's future is not a vision, but a path I will walk. Her broken crown faded, replaced by the bright flame of unity. Athena's smile was soft, but her voice carried strength. You have seen the faces of time, and yet you remain. Remember this: the future is not written in gardens or stars. It is written in the choices of today, carried forward by courage. The garden shimmered, its blossoms glowing brighter as if in blessing. The air grew warm, and the path ahead opened once more. The heroes gathered close, their hearts steadied by the lesson. The sailor held his head high, ready to face the waves of tomorrow. The poet carried his voice like a flame, no longer fearing silence. The craftsman's hands felt strong, guided by the promise of creation. The young woman's gaze burned with resolve, no shadow clouding her spirit. Together, they walked on, leaving the garden of time behind. But its fragrance lingered, reminding them that every step shapes eternity. Part 10. The River of Memory. The path led them into a valley where silver waters flowed endlessly. The river shimmered like liquid moonlight, carrying whispers on its current. Athena raised her hand, and the heroes stopped at its bank. This is the river of memory, she said, her voice steady. It carries the past, not as it was, but as you hold it. The sailor's breath grew shallow as he gazed upon the stream. He saw his ship drifting, sails torn, men calling out to him. Guilt pierced his heart, the memory heavy like an anchor. He knelt, whispering, I failed them all. The river shimmered, replaying the moment when the storm broke the mast. Yet another memory rose, his crew cheering when he guided them to shore. The sailor's eyes filled with tears as both visions overlapped. Athena's voice echoed gently. Memory is not chain nor anchor. It is tide, shaping, but not binding. The sailor placed his hand in the water. I will carry their laughter, not only their cries, he whispered. The river brightened, releasing him from the weight. The poet stepped forward, his cloak brushing the water's edge. Memories rose. His first poem recited in secret, his trembling voice. Then the jeers of those who mocked him, their laughter echoing cruelly. He lowered his head, whispering, perhaps they were right. The water rippled, showing a child holding his words close to her chest. Then another vision, an elder smiling as his verses gave comfort. The poet's breath shook, but his heart steadied. My words lived in them. That is enough. The river glowed, and the echoes of mockery dissolved. The craftsman walked next, heavy with shadows of his past. He saw weapons forged, fires burning, his work used in destruction. He turned away, shame burning in his chest. But the water showed another truth. A plow carved into soil, harvests rising, lives nourished by his skill. A door frame he built, standing strong as a home sheltered within. The craftsman whispered, my work holds both ruin and blessing. He placed his hands in the stream. I will choose blessing with every strike of the hammer. The river brightened, its current rushing with renewed strength. The young woman approached last, her heart uncertain. The water reflected her childhood, her laughter under a starlit sky. Then it shifted, her people's faces full of hope and fear. She heard her own voice, trembling with doubt. What if I fail them all? Athena stepped beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Memory is not prophecy. It reminds you of what you carry. The young woman looked into the water again. She saw her people rising behind her, not because she was flawless, but because she stood, even when her voice shook. Her eyes brightened, steady with resolve. "My memory will guide me, not chain me," she said. The river shimmered, calm and clear. The heroes stood together, their reflections glowing in the current. Athena's voice rang like bells over the flowing water. "You have learned the fifth lesson. Memory is not to bind, but to guide. Carry it forward, but do not let it hold you still." The heroes bowed their heads, their burdens lightened. The sailor felt free of the storm's grip. The poet carried his verses with quiet pride. The craftsman's hands no longer shook with shame. The young woman's heart beat strong with clarity. Athena turned, her gaze fixed on the path beyond the river. "Come," she said. "The journey deepens, and the library awaits." Together, they crossed the river of memory, stepping into what lay ahead, the ending, the heroes eternal. The sky opened above them as dawn painted the horizon with gold. Athena stood tall, her armor gleaming in the first light of morning. The heroes gathered, weary yet strong, their eyes reflecting new fire. The path behind them was long, filled with trials and revelations. Yet the journey had given them more than victories. It had given truth. Athena raised her hand, and silence fell across the hills. "You have walked with courage, and you have seen yourselves," she said. "Not as myths carved in stone, but as hearts learning to rise." The sailor looked to the sea in the distance, waves rolling in peace. His voice carried hope, no longer bound by storms or regret. "I will return to the ocean, but not as a man adrift," he said. "I will guide others, so no soul feels lost as I once did." The poet placed his hand over his heart, words forming softly. "My verses will not chase glory, but shelter those who need them. Even a single soul comforted is a world remade by song." The craftsman lifted his tools, once heavy, now steady in his grasp. "My hands will shape more than steel. They will shape futures," he said. "I will build doors that open, hearths that warm, paths that endure." The young woman, once trembling, now stepped forward with steady eyes. "My people wait for me," she whispered, her voice firm and true. "I will lead them, not as a shadow of heroes past, but as myself." Athena's gaze swept across them, pride softening her divine strength. "You are no longer seekers," she said. "You are the heroes eternal. They will tell your stories, not because of battles won, but because you chose hope when despair could have ruled you." The wind stirred, carrying her words like an anthem across the land. The heroes stood taller, not as legends, but as living lights. They turned toward the world that called for their return. The sailor walked toward the harbor, the tide welcoming him home. The poet wandered the roads, his voice weaving comfort into silence. The craftsman returned to his forge, sparks dancing with promise. The young woman journeyed to her people, their hearts rising with hers. Athena remained, watching as they disappeared into the horizon. Her voice, quiet now, carried only to the wind. May their choices echo, long after time forgets their names. The sun rose higher, blessing the land with warmth and clarity. In the stillness, the Temple of Echoes shimmered, fading from sight. Its doors closed, its secrets resting until new seekers arrived. The river of memory stilled, calm beneath the sky's reflection. The garden of whispers bloomed, petals lifting with quiet song. The starlit path remained, waiting for feet brave enough to walk. The world breathed with them, holding the lessons close. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the step beyond it. Wisdom is not the weight of knowledge, but the light it gives. Memory is not the chain of the past, but the guide to tomorrow. And hope is not a gift from gods, but a choice within every soul. The tale of Athena and the heroes eternal lived on, not as marble statues, nor distant myths carved in time, but as voices carried in the wind, reminding hearts to rise. And when night fell, the stars burned brighter than before. For they knew that once heroes had walked among them, and their light would never fade.